Welcome back to the show, and it is an interesting time of year if you think about it. Joel Garris is here. Joel, you're kind of part of the family to us, as you know. Welcome back to the show. But it's kind of an emotional show for me too, because my daughter Mila is like, my 6-year-old is literally sitting here, and you think about, okay, yeah, it's tax time, and almost tax time, you think about all the mistakes we made last year where we did not prepare for tax time. And you think about why we're saving money, why we're trying to enhance our wealth, and you think about mistakes. Now I think this year is the time to think about how we stop making those mistakes forever. What are the mistakes that we're making as people, as we're trying to prepare for that, prepare to give our wealth to her? What mistakes are we making?
Well, the biggest issue is just understanding what the tax liabilities are going to be when you pass money to the next generation, because that's one of the areas where the folks in Washington have kind of zeroed in on trying to look at that as an opportunity to raise money. So when we think about retirement accounts, the rules on those, if you're inheriting one, have completely changed, and it really does change what you need to do in terms of those types of accounts.
Trust, I think, is so important too, because the people out there working hard, whether they own their own business or working hard for someone else, and they do create a little bit of wealth. And then they're like, okay, I'm gonna just trust you with my wealth. That is a tough transition. Trust. Hey Joel, here you go. I trust you now. That's an important, and I know you take it very seriously. How importantly do you take that trust?
Well, it's everything. I mean, it's part of the relationships that we establish with our clients. I mean, that's how we build that trust. We're fortunate enough to be celebrating our 40th anniversary coming up here on May 1. And we've got a lot of folks that have been with us for 30, 40 years. So it's really neat to develop those relationships and ultimately develop that trust over time.
Doing it for so long now, you've represented people and created wealth for people from the time they were 26 even, and now you see them growing up, and you've created generational wealth for people. How does that make you feel?
It's really neat. One of the special things about our firm and a policy that we still follow even today is we don't have account minimums. And so what that means is that we get to work with folks just as they start out, and maybe that's saving $100 a month, and then seeing how that can grow and expand, and as their incomes increase as they work, then ultimately they're able to save even more money along the way and ultimately retire. So it's been a really neat experience to see people through that entire journey of starting to save and ultimately being able to retire on their savings.
You've literally written a book on savings and growing wealth. You've written a book too. It's not easy.
My book's not as cool as his book.
And it's not your first, but your new book, I have to hear more about it. We talked about it before, but it's doing quite well.
It's doing quite well. We actually managed to crack the top 100 on Amazon in terms of its category. So it is doing well. Next Gen Dollars and Cents is really a book that's geared for people of all ages to help explain some of the fundamental strategies that you need to follow to achieve financial success over time.
I hear all these guys who have made a lot of money in roofing or made a lot of money in law, whatever it is. They don't have time to understand the financial world. And you do. This is your job. And people have to sort of turn it over to you to create that wealth, and figure out how to create those strategies. What do you say to them? Like, how do you say, look, I have this covered. How often should they look at their account? How does that conversation go?
Well, it's important to get started as soon as possible, because the earlier you get started, the better off you're going to be. And if you do need to course correct, it's easier if you're doing it earlier rather than later in life. And so those are the kinds of conversations that we have. We often recommend folks visit with us at least a couple of times during the course of the year, and particularly if there's any major events. If there's a major life event, then obviously that would accelerate that timing of that conversation.
One of those major life events happens every year for a lot of you business owners, and it's called April 15th.
Yeah.
Or you get the extension and it's called October 15th, and you write that big check, you're like, never again. Never again am I gonna do this. And a lot of times when you're writing that check on April 15th, it's too late. That being said, it's not too late now to figure out what to do for next year. There are a lot of things you can do tax-wise to prepare for next year where you're not writing that big check.
Yeah, Justin, that's such a great point, because all too often people take their tax return, they throw it in the file cabinet, or they leave it stuck up in the cloud somewhere, and they don't actually take the time to really look at it. And now's a great time to take that opportunity to look at that return and see what's going on. If you're owing a bunch of money, are there some strategies that you could do to help minimize that for the years ahead?
You know, I think you guys are doing a great job, obviously. And the one strategy that you should not employ is you're saying, oh, you know what, I'll just get mad again next April 15th. Please call Joel. He's fantastic. As Milo says, Mr. Garris is fantastic at this. He's really saved so much money for so many families throughout Central Florida and made so much money for so many of you already. Call Joel today. Best of Central Florida. Continue.